they've got it, they've got it, they've got it. So you know what? I'm going to get
I'm
it
gonna
too.
get it. Yeah. Have you guys ever felt the pressure to buy something or get something simply because you've seen your friend has it or a family member's got it, and you've just felt pressured like, well, I need to keep up with what they're doing, so I need to go out and get the same thing. So that's what we mean by trying to keep up with the Joneses. The pressure of trying to keep up with the Joneses can be so real. This is something that we've had to overcome in our relationship as well, because you see your friends or your family members or people that you know getting stuff that you would also like, or reaching financial wins that you'd also like to reach. And in that moment, you may have a moment where you're like, oh man, do you know what? I really want that as well. I'd love to go get that as well. But there's nothing wrong. Don't get us wrong. There's nothing wrong with seeing your family members win and thinking, do you know what? I admire what they've done. I admire the levels that they've reached. I admire their wins. There's nothing wrong with that. But it becomes very dangerous when you then think, okay, I admire what they've got, so I'm going to go out and get the same thing, especially if it doesn't align with your finances and it's not a great fit for you, but then it's a way for you to try and keep up. So that can be very, very dangerous.
Today, we'll be sharing 5 things for you to think about if you and your bank account are feeling that pressure from other people to try and keep up appearances. And hopefully, these 5 things will help you then avoid the pressure and really think about your financial spending more consciously.
So first, let's talk about these pressures, right? So the struggle to keep up with the Joneses is real in one way or another. So why do you think it's such a big deal for people to try and keep up with the Joneses?
I think the reason why it's a big deal is there's a concept called conspicuous consumption.
Right.
And basically this refers to like where you buy something to try and essentially keep up a certain
Yeah.
image. And that image is really social status, isn't it? It's kind of like flexing your muscles to say, I can afford it. I can afford a certain lifestyle
Yeah.
as well. Look at me. I drive this car, or I live in this area, or I wear these clothes, or I have this expensive watch, or whatever it is. And that whole consumption is spending money on acquiring luxurious stuff
Right.
in order to essentially publicly display it as a way of saying, I've got this money, right?
Yeah.
And so what you find is that pressure of like where you see other people around you living in a certain status, you may think to yourself, well, I too don't want to miss out on this social status. So I want to also buy stuff that will give me the same image that I'm seeing other people have. And this is why it's a big deal, because essentially you find yourself buying things, not necessarily because, you know, you've thought about it yourself and you think, oh, I really want this for myself, but you're saying they've got it, they've got it, they've got it. So you know what? I'm going to get it too.
I'm going to get it, yeah.
And that's essentially why keep up with the Joneses ends up being a huge, huge deal.
Okay, so let's dive into the 5 things that you can consider if you ever find yourself feeling the pressure of trying to keep up with the Joneses. So the first thing, are you doing it for you, or are you doing it so everyone else can see what you're doing, right?
That's a good one.
And the reason why I like that one is simply because a lot of the times we try to keep up with what other people are doing or other friends are doing or other family members are doing, right? So using an example that's quite personal to us. So we live in a small house. We've only got 2 bedrooms in our house. And the reason why we got a 2-bed house was simply because it made financial sense for us, number one, and because it's just the 2 of us. We didn't exactly need a bigger space. We didn't need more space and to pay more for the house. But then I know like some of our friends and our loved ones have bigger houses, and it makes so much sense why they have bigger houses, because they've got families and they need the space. So you might find yourself in a situation where you're like, you know what? Well, my friend's doing that. I just need to do it as well. But it takes you coming to understand why you're doing it. So are you doing it for you? What works well for you in that moment? Is the smaller house a better fit for you financially, a better fit for you in that moment, and then you can get to the bigger house later on? Or is the bigger house a better fit for you and your finances in that moment? So you have to take the time to think about it. What works well for you? Is it for you, or is it for everyone else?
Yeah, and a house is a great example, right? Because that's a huge purchase. But this also applies to even the smaller things.
Yeah.
Literally right down to like, I don't know, fashion, for example, clothing and trainers and all that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, am I buying this piece of clothing because I want to wear it, because I like the look of it and I like the vibes and I'm like, yeah, this is something I definitely want?
Yeah.
Or am I buying it because just want to portray a certain image, or I want to kind of fit in with the people that are around me, and I'm buying expensive clothing, not because I genuinely like labels or believe in labels, but I'm buying those clothing because I want to keep a certain image. And these are the kind of things that, you then have to ask yourself, like, is this really for me, or am I doing this for other people? Because you have to at least know that I'm buying this for me.
Absolutely.
At the very minimum.
Yeah. Okay, so the second thing that you can think about is, can you genuinely afford it? So what's your definition of being able to afford it? Is it something that you can afford and then still live very, very comfortably whilst you're paying for it? Or can you just about afford it and just fit it into your budget like a tight push? Or thirdly, does it just not fit in your budget at all? So think about it. Can you really afford it?
Yeah, that's a very good question, And on that, let's dive a little bit deeper in that, because it's one thing to buy it, right? Like, I could buy, say, an iPad today.
Yeah.
However, the question then is, can I afford the upkeep? Now, there's not really much upkeep with an iPad.
Yeah.
But, you have to get things like, maybe you get a case, you get a screen protector, and that all counts towards the total cost of purchase.
Yeah.
However, if we're looking at something like, say, a car,
right,
the cost of ownership is much more than just buying the car itself, because the car itself might cost X £1,000 to buy the car, but then it costs X more money to keep the car, because you have to pay the tax, pay the insurance, pay for servicing, MOT, parking, the list goes on with a car. So it's not just about, can I afford buying it? Can you afford the cost of owning the item? The third thing for you to consider is, does this align with our vision and our goals? Does this really align with the plan that I have for my life in general? Because at the end of the day, everything will cost you something, even your goals. So what I mean by that is, if your goal is to save up for something, whatever it is, a house, a holiday, if you spend the money, then that means you're not saving it. Right. And that's not to say that you should save everything, but it's just to kind of understand that, okay, how does this impact the vision and goals that I have? Particularly if it's going to be quite a big expense at the end of the day, right? And so this requires you, first of all, to know what your vision and goal for your life is, really. And I know that's a big thing, like we just say it so lightly, but it's a very big thing to think about. And it doesn't have to be sort of, this is my vision for my life. It can simply be, you know what, at this moment in my life right now, my focus is to do X. And so the question is, will me buying this thing or signing up to this thing take me away from doing X, or does it actually take me closer to doing X? Say I wanted to be able to accept a job in any city, in any place. I don't want to be sort of boggled down into like a single location. That's my vision for my career at this moment right now. But the question then is, well, is buying a house going to fit that vision, or does it actually hinder that vision? Because if I'm buying a house, that's kind of settling down, that's putting my roots in one place, and that goes against the ability of me being able to be nimble and move in any time, in any place, in anywhere that I want to, if I get a new job somewhere else. So that's what we mean by, like, does it fit your vision and your goals? Because yes, buying a house is a great thing. Yes, buying something is a good thing. But how does that fit in with your sort of overall plan in general for what you want to achieve?
Yeah, and I guess it goes back to what you were just saying, which is, does it take you one step closer to the vision that you have for your future? Because there's a lot of us that then think, you know what, in the next 5 years, I want to do A, B, C, D. So you've got a 5-year plan. So we'll succumbing to that pressure and buying that thing or getting that thing really push you towards that 5-year plan that you've got? Or does it then hinder you from reaching what you want to reach within those 5 years? So it's definitely something great to think about and consider. The fourth thing that you can think about is, does this thing really bring value to your life? Will it be of benefit in your life, or is it something that you'll regret a few days later? Will you sit there and then think, after you've used it for a few days or a week or 2 weeks, and then think, do you know what? I probably really didn't need this thing, but I just bought it because I was trying to keep up, and I saw maybe that a friend had it, or I saw that maybe a family member had it, and I just got it? Or is it something that after like a couple of weeks, you'll sit there and be like, do you know what, this was a great purchase, and it was actually a great idea to get it? So it's one of those things that you actually have to sit there and think about first, because it will save you money in the long run.
Yeah, so I've got a very good example of this actually. So I was in uni, and everybody around me had an iPad.
Right.
I was like, yo, I can't be the only one without the iPad. So I bought an iPad, and literally speaking, I didn't even touch it for a long time.
Yeah.
Because I bought it because I didn't want to feel left out. But then it turns out I didn't actually need it. My MacBook was fine enough to carry.
Right.
I was just kind of mesmerized by the touchscreen and everything that the MacBook didn't have at the time. So I was just like, yeah, let's get the iPad. But then literally after I bought it, genuinely speaking, I didn't really touch it, didn't really use it. And that's a great example of how you find yourself buying something because you think to yourself, yes, it'd be great to buy this thing because I've seen other people have it and it is so nice, only for that thing to turn out to not be of any benefit to you at all. Like, I genuinely didn't get any use out of it. And by the time I thought about it and remembered that, oh yeah, I do have an iPad and tried to use it, like the novelty had worn off.
And that stuff happens. It happens a lot. And it doesn't just happen with the big things and like the big purchases. Yeah. It also happens with like little things. I've had times when I've seen some of my friends, like I've gone into work and I've seen a workmate of mine with really nice shoes. And I'm like, where'd you get those shoes from? I really like them. I think they'd look great on me. And I've gone out and bought them. Yeah. Never worn the shoes. And I've got this thing of, oh no, I'll keep it. There'll be a time. The time will come, and the time never comes. So it doesn't just happen with the big purchases. Also the small things in life as well. We can get pressured into getting them because we've seen someone else having them. So we think, oh, I need to have it as well. So yeah, those are great things to think about.
The key point here is simple, right? It's the fact that you may end up buying something that you will either regret or just not even use.
Yeah.
And that is a waste of money, if you're being honest. Like, that money could be used towards something else that would actually bring benefit to you.
Absolutely. So the fifth thing that you can consider when you're actually really feeling the pressure to keep up with the Joneses is what really brings you joy and happiness. So there's a genuine misconception that the more things you buy, the happier you are.
Yeah. This point is quite deep because it's really not about like the thing that you're buying,
right?
But it's just understanding the mindset, I guess, of saying that regardless of whether I buy this thing or not, how happy and joyful and peaceful am I as a person? Because at the end of the day, buying this thing will give me a very short sense of like excitement, maybe even like achievement.
Yeah.
But it won't necessarily give me long-lasting joy.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest problems with keeping up with others and keeping up appearances is because we kind of feel like if I have what they have, I'll be happy.
Right.
But it's understanding that actually all of those things are great. They're nice, of course. Like, go after them if you want them. But materialistic stuff doesn't really give you much joy.
Yeah.
And that's the fallacy in keeping up appearances, because it's like chasing the wind almost. Like, you're kind of never going to be satisfied, or chasing your own tail. You're just like constantly going around in circles. The fifth point really is to consider like, okay, I need to be happy for myself, within myself, and I need to find joy internally, and understand as well that buying this thing or acquiring these goods or services will not intrinsically or automatically make me a happier person. They'll just maybe make my life more comfortable.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll make my life feel more luxurious. They'll give me a certain level of living status. But deep down, happiness is not connected, or at least directly connected, to the things that I have.
And I like what you say there, where you say that I'll be happy when it comes to keeping up with the Joneses, you're constantly like, oh, I'll be happy when I have the shoe that they've got. I'll be happy when I have that gadget that they've got. I'll be happy when I earn the same salary that they have. And it goes back to what really makes you happy. Because whilst you're busy chasing what someone else is doing, you're not really focused on what you want, what makes you happy, what brings you joy. So it's really important to go back and dig deep within and just be like, okay, so what genuinely makes me happy? What brings me joy? What do I want to achieve in my life? What goals do I have? Let me focus on that first, rather than focusing on what the other person's doing. And like we said before, there's nothing wrong with admiring when your friends are winning. There's nothing wrong with admiring when you're seeing people do amazing things. But let that be a push for you and a reminder that if they can do it, I can do it too. Just focus on what you want for yourself and go after it. Work hard for it. It will be you having the next win, and your friends will be celebrating you when you've won as well.
So we hope that these 5 things are going to help you to withstand the pressures of keeping up appearances. Take time to think about every purchase you make before you make it, and go through those things that we mentioned earlier on about finding out if it's going to be of benefit to you, if it fits with your vision and your goals and everything else like that. This way you are able to essentially resist the pressure of spending money when you're feeling the pressure. It's very good for you as well to take time to be very clear about what is your goal, what are the things that you want to achieve in your life, and that this way you will have a foundation to stand on when you are looking at, okay, does this actually fit with what I'm trying to do? And finally, what we hope you gain is that when you do make a purchase, you're doing it because you want to do it, not because you're being pressurized to do it.
Yeah, so we hope you've enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time.